I've been meaning to start up a spell series to complement my unit highlight series for quite some time, and we're going to start today with a hot one. Get it? Burning Head is the best directional wind spell in the game. There's a few reasons for that, but quickly let's get started here. This battle is going to be swiftly underway. No Swift Shiver Shards, though, on these Deepwood Scouts. A couple of Glade Riders with Spears, Sisters of Twilight, got Eternal Guards with Shields, Spellsinger Lore of Life, more Eternal Guards, and the Lost Sylvan Knights. All of this against Way's Empire here. He's got Boris the Todd up in the air. A couple of Knights of the Blazing Sun, couple more over here, and two more Empire Knights. 6 Shock Cavalry units in total. Great pick against the Wood Elves. We've got this Fire Wizard, Bright Wizard even, to complement that. Sigmar Sons, Flagellants, couple more Swordsmen, and the Silver Bullets round things out. So, yes, Wind of Death does more damage, technically, but it's also not something that you really want to be spending your Winds of Magic on generally if you're playing the Vampire Counts, whereas Burning Head is basically always a good idea against any faction. The leadership debuff component is very, very nice, and for the damage, it's pretty cost-effective, especially if you overcast it on light armor targets. Doesn't have the most armor-piercing damage in the world. Penumbral Pendulum probably is a little bit better on that front, but here, got this big old charge of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. They get this buff here, Flaming Sword of Ruin, to give them magic attacks. You can see they just come in and wreck the Lost Sylvan Knights with that active. I guess kind of forget that Empire can bring that here, and there it is. The first Burning Head cutting across the lines, doing some pretty good damage, and actually also helping to rout off the Lost Sylvan Knights as they get hit by that burnt leadership effect. You can see it just burns on down the line here. Pretty good value. Not the juiciest Burning Head you've ever seen on this channel even, or on any channel, but, you know, pretty good value so far. 820 damage, considering how cheap this Bright Wizard is on his horse. That is, of course, wildly cost-effective. In terms of Winds of Magic cost, it's not a lot, honestly. What you get out of it, and of course does proc Kindle Flame as well, which is definitely one of the best lore attributes in the game, at least if you have units that have innate fire damage. Given that you can just get that straight up damage boost on a lot of units, and especially like shock units here, like these Knights of the Blazing Sun with their 78 charge bonus. But let's see. It's like potentially going to be setting up another Burning Head here. Lost Sylvan Knights do come back from rout. Unfortunately did not have the resources to chase them off, but they're hanging around here. Boris also just kind of hanging around waiting for a good opportunity. Knights charging in, another Flaming Sword of Ruin. No, in fact, it's a Shield of Thorns on the Wood Elves side, giving a little bit of physical resistance to those Eternal Guard as they rush in, but of course physical resistance doesn't help at all against magic damage. Burning Head, most definitely magic damage, does do some pretty nasty friendly fire on those Sigmar Sons there, but hey, they don't care too much. They're used to getting, burned by the light or whatever. Anyway, the Sylvan Knights barely hanging on here. The line of Deepwood Scouts has been pretty well disrupted, but balance of power, at least for the time being, not too far in the Empire's favor. The Sisters are still fighting here, still relatively healthy. There's quite a few Eternal Guard trying to hold back the tide of Empire cavalry, but there is a lot of heavy cavalry here. The Sisters can get their armor debuff here. Like you can see, these Empire Knights are down to 80 armor. The Deepwood Scouts will do a little bit more damage. Knights of the Blazing Sun especially only have 100 armor. They're the lowest armor actually of any Empire heavy cavalry, even though they're one of the more expensive variants. That armor sundering on them particularly will be quite impactful. You can see they go down to 70, which is not amazing. It's pretty good, but of course there's just enough Knights, and this is the idea with bringing 6 Shock Cavalry units against Wood Elves, that you just have enough Knights to keep rolling them over. They don't bring enough stuff. Over here, this is potentially the game as it is. Yeah. Sisters of Twilight unfortunately getting caught up by some Knights of the Blazing Sun on the ground there. Boris gets a charge in. Sylvan Knights are going to come around and rear charge the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Keep in mind they do have a little bit of magic resistance, but immediately get terrified. Sisters of Twilight also get terrified, and that triggers army losses. So a relatively quick one today. It is going to be a relatively quick video. We'll talk a little bit more about Burning Head after end screen. Yeah, there it is. But relatively short one. I just figured we'd get started hot, hot, fast, just like that Burning Head. 1700 damage value. Keep in mind, the damage valuation from spells and ranged attacks, I believe, does calculate damage on friendly units. So some of this is maybe the Sigmar Sons. But all things considered, that is a pretty good amount of value. Again, not the most I've ever seen, but considering that it synergized with this build very well, and the 6 Shock Cavalry build, so I'm biased towards it, I definitely wanted to cast this one for you guys. So Knights Blazing Sun, 3 of them definitely did a great job. The one had a little bit more of a tough time there. Empire Knights also here to mostly just block more than anything. Infantry didn't have to do a lot, but yeah, those burning heads, man. This Widow formation, kind of because of the terrain and the cavalry engagement pressure there, ended up getting, yeah, just in a great position to get burnt up. So, Burning Head. As a general rule, I would say this is a spell that if you're taking Lord of Fire, you should pretty much always have. It's good against literally every single faction. Yeah, base cost 10 Winds of Magic, 16 for Overcast. It does increase the damage. It's not the most armor-piercing damage, but it's okay, Overcast. I would generally say the damage is worth overcasting it pretty much regardless, and if you do overcast it, it will absolutely wreck low armor units. So maybe we can set up an actual quick little test here. Get good old Archaon with Burning Head, and we'll just get a bunch of... I mean, you guys have seen this probably a million times and done it yourself in campaign, so you should know by now. But we'll get, like, some medium infantry. Let's grab some Tomb Guard here. We'll get a Tomb Prince and a couple Tomb Guard. And, yeah, let's go to... We are going to do a little bit of comparisons, but I just want to set this up while I'm thinking about it here, Glacial Lake. But I do want to compare it to... I know the alphabet, I promise. I do want to just quickly compare to Lore of Shadows. This is kind of the best direct comparison because these are two relatively similar in terms of cost. Penumbral Pendulum I will be talking about soon, but 13 and 18, so it is more expensive in terms of Winds of Magic, right? 10 and 16. Like I said, it does a little bit more damage. The leadership effect of Burning Head is quite nice. It's slower, as you'll see from the animation here, just takes more time to make contact with all of the units, whereas Penumbral Pendulum goes pretty fast here. I guess I could just switching. But anyway, yeah, Penumbral Pendulum's pretty fast, which is one of the other advantages of it, but I do believe that Burning Head hits a larger effect area overall, like it goes for longer. It does have a little bit more of a randomized effect. Penumbral Pendulum is basically always just, you know, arrow straight, whereas this thing can kind of veer left and right somewhat. But, like, the leadership effect is really what helps set this apart from Penumbral Pendulum in my mind and what makes it more competitive, as well as the fact that it's fire damage, which situationally will be better against specific targets. Like, we could even come in here and include, like, the Kepler Guard, right? So, you can see it's still giving me the balance of power even with all of this. Yeah, let's go ahead and just quickly also, yes, I mean, technically, like... Vangeist's Revenge and Wind of Death both deal more damage overall, right? And the thing about vampires, though, is with both Counts and Coast, like, you really don't want to be spending your Winds of Magic on this, especially overcasting it, which I don't think Wind of Death is worth casting at all in its base form. Overcast, it's definitely very, very strong, but 27 Winds of Magic, that's a lot of zombies that you could potentially be summoning, right? I mean, zombies... 4 Winds of Magic for the base zombie summon. So a lot of the time you're going to be wanting those zombies and the Invocations of Nehek. Same thing like with Vangeist's Revenge too. I mean, this one's arguably more cost effective than Wind of Death, but it's 16 for the base one. Still not a slouch. That's, you know, base cost the same as an Overcast Burning Head, which is, you know, interesting to consider. I actually didn't realize that they were the same. But anyway, let's go ahead and just run this quick test here. You guys can see how bad it burns up. Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard are an interesting unit. They have, again, medium armors, about 50, so kind of middle of the road on that front. But yeah, I mean, against basically any faction which brings light infantry. So I said it's good against any faction. I will take that back. It's maybe not good against Dwarfs. Arguably the one faction that I would say maybe you want to take... oh man, I took Archaon on foot. This is going to take a minute. Dwarfs are maybe the one faction I would say just take Flamestorm instead because it's more fun and, you know, Vortex is against Dwarfs. But come on in, boys. Let's get nice and blobbed up around old Archie. Give him some melee defense so he doesn't completely die. And get the blob kind of formed up around him. Yeah, I might not blob too much, but let's just go ahead and throw it on down the line, overcast, and we'll keep the health bars up. Yeah, you can see the Kepler Guard are like a really ideal target to use it on, right? Because they're already base weak to fire damage. They don't have a ton of armor to begin with, so that in and of itself is like one of the better use cases of Burning Head, and the reason why I don't really like taking the Kepler Guard against any faction which has access to Lore of Fire, because that can happen to you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. Again, relatively quick one today. Just wanted to start this series off. Let me know down in the comments below which spell should I cover next. Definitely on my list is Plague of Rust. Hoping to cover that relatively soon. I don't have a replay for it yet, but if you have any good Plague of Rust replays, be sure to send them in. Harmonic Convergence is another one I want to cover. Yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'll probably do best in class for the different various damage type spells, but I think there's just too many buffs and debuffs for me to actually, you know, like try and name a best in class of those. But at the very least, Burning Head, best win spell in the game. That's it for today. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.